Retro motorcycles are everywhere at the moment, but getting one right isn't necessarily that easy. It's not enough to bolt on a round headlight, give it a classic paint job and hope that nostalgia does the rest. Honda has set itself quite a challenge with the CB1000F because if it wants to replicate the spirit of one of its most iconic motorcycles, that's going to be no easy task. So the question of course is, have they pulled it off? If you're going to launch a bike that revives the spirit of the iconic CB750F and CB900F, then they are very big boots to fill. These were bikes that defined an era. On the road they became icons of the early 80s, and on the track they helped launch the career of a young American called Freddie Spencer. Racing for American Honda, Spencer rode a heavily modified CB750F with its engine enlarged to 1023cc, just coming inside the AMA Superbike regulations. The result was a machine producing twice the power of the standard road bike, becoming one of the defining superbikes of its generation. More than 40 years later, this is Honda's interpretation of that iconic formula. So how have Honda gone about it? Well, let's start with the styling, because I genuinely think they've absolutely nailed it. This wolf silver paint scheme with the double blue stripe is iconic and looks beautiful on this muscular reinterpretation of the original tank. The side panels, seat and oversized tail are spot on, and despite hiding a thoroughly modern inline 4 beneath the bodywork, this bike has an unmistakably retro aesthetic. The beefy 4x2x1 exhaust looks just right. And Honda have even fitted twin horns beneath the headlight, just like the old days. Of course, beneath all of that retro styling is a thoroughly modern motorcycle with all the features and technology riders now expect and enjoy. I could easily spend the next 10 minutes talking through the spec sheet, but that's not really what matters. The important question is, have Honda managed to capture the character of those original CBF models? So let's get out on the road and find out. So Honda have done a fantastic job with the styling, and it's really harks back to those glory days of the 80s with the CB750F and 900F. So there are compromises that they've had to make for modernity, and we'll touch on those, but I want to find out what this is actually like on the road. Let's start with talking about ergonomics, because that's one thing that surprised me about the bike when I first jumped on it. I was expecting it to have quite a sporty kind of setup, given what it is. It's got a seat and bar position very reminiscent of those older bikes. You sit sort of quite low in the bike. Seat height's 795mm, but you kind of sit down inside it behind this nice big bulbous tank, and you've got some high bars. So you get that traditional old sit up and beg riding position, which I really like because it's very comfortable. I mean, you can do distances on this with ease, but it doesn't compromise riding at speed when you want to get a wiggle on. It's a really nice setup. It just felt odd when I first got on it, very different to the Hornet, which is kind of arse in the air, hands down a little bit, not like a sports bike, but you know what I mean. This is very much like jumping on one of the old 80s bikes, same kind of feel. The pegs are relatively high, that's to give you clearance for lean angle, but they're not so high that they become uncomfortable. I've got a 32-inch inside leg, and I've got slightly more than a 90-degree bend in my legs, but by no means does it feel cramped or uncomfortable. Actually, having these bars up and relatively wide sort of opens your chest up, and you've got a nice open feel around it, very relaxed. That seat, which as we already said is a really nice replica of the old seat, is actually very comfortable. They do a comfort seat for it, but this standard seat I think is perfect. I've spent a couple of hours on this at a time and had no real issues. Past this guy here. Yep. Whilst I'm talking about ergos, I might as well talk about the cockpit, and we can look at the controls. So this is obviously somewhere where they've got to deviate from the original. because of the stuff that's on the bike. So on the left hand control we've got main beam flash, you've got your mode button here which you can change on the fly, and then you've got a little toggle switch left and right, horn and indicators, pretty simple. All of those are backlit as well, so if you're riding at night that's backlit, which is nice. On the opposite side you've just got your ignition switch, kill switch and hazards. One thing that people will say, because it's a retro bike, is it should have round clocks. Now it would look fantastic if it had twin round clocks, but of course this is the modern world, this is a modern bike, and we've got all of that lovely data that you need to show for your riding modes and all that sort of bits and pieces. So I can see why Honda wouldn't go to the expense and trouble of designing a set of clocks or a dash layout specifically for this bike. It may seem like a little bit of a cost saving exercise, and I'm sure it is, because this is the same clock that's on the Transalp, it's on the CB1000, CB650, you name it. It's a clock that goes right across a lot of the models, but that also means it's a very efficient way to show what's going on. Now, would it look good with dual clocks on it? Yes. But there is a solution to it, and that's to have this cowl fitted. This is an accessory cowl. You can buy this on its own or as part of a pack. But putting that on hides that clock, and you know, from a rider's perspective, I think it's fine. It's very clear, it's easy to read, easy to control, and from the outside of the bike, that modernness is hidden by this. If you prefer the naked look, then you're just going to have that modern clock. It's just one of those things. There's a lot of work gone into that exhaust, 3 different chambers in that exhaust to give a real kind of rumble to it. Yeah, it's quite big, it's quite shiny, but it looks absolutely perfect on this bike. That 4 into 2 into 1, I think this exhaust suits this bike. I think it sounds fantastic. I see no reason to change that whatsoever. Overall, the cockpit is a really lovely place to be. Nice clear instrumentation, really good ergonomics. This lovely bulbous shiny silver tank holds 16 litres of fuel, which Honda say is good for 280 kilometres or about 170-ish miles. I've done about 86 miles in the ride that I've just been doing part of this filming, and I've returned 47.6 miles to the gallon, and I've not exactly been taking it easy, so you know, pretty decent. What I do love about this though, which I've mentioned before, are those colours, that graphics on the silver tank. All of that is pure 80s retro inspired stuff, and it's absolutely lovely. So let's move on to the heart of the CB1000F. It is an older Fireblade model that's been reworked. It's putting out in this format about 123-124 horsepower and 103 newton meters of torque, and it's an absolute peach. One thing about this bike is this isn't a CB1000 Hornet that's been playing in the dressing up box. There have been some quite dramatic changes to this. So the engine has been reworked. They've made some change into the camshafts and the valve timings as well, and on 2 of the cylinders they've changed the valve timing very slightly, which gives the engine that little bit more of a throb, and they've done a really good job on that. And to boost that, they've also changed the intake side as well, so the funnels coming into the intake are longer, and again it's to try to get a little bit more resonance in the airbox and get that noise. So it's not an obnoxious bike in terms of exhaust note, but it sounds absolutely gorgeous, and once you pin it up above 6,000 revs, it absolutely screams. The thing I really like about this engine is that power delivery. It is just a creamy, smooth, linear push of power. They've not tried to push too much power out of it. I think where it is at 123-124 horsepower is absolutely perfect. It will get on. This is a fast bike, don't have any kind of reservations about that. Don't be a spec sheet warrior and go, ugh, it's a Fireblade engine that only puts out 120 horsepower. This thing absolutely flies, but it does it in a really nice, smooth manner. Engine's very forgiving, as it would be with inline 4s, you know, almost any gear is fine. It'll pootle through town in third gear at 30 miles an hour without complaint, and then when you wind it on, it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling up to the red line at 10. With this motor, the peak power comes in 2,000 revs lower than it would do on the Hornet, and the peak torque is 1,000 revs lower, so it moves everything a little bit further down in the rev range, which means that you don't have to absolutely rev the nuts off of this to get anything out of it. It starts pulling early and you just get that really lovely pull through, not a massive shove, it's just wind it on and away it goes. It's absolutely gorgeous. The bike doesn't come as standard with a quick shifter. This has got one on. It's got the sports pack on it. That does include a quick shifter, but the quick shifter's creamy smooth, no issues with that at all. And again, for me, that's definitely worth spending the money. I think if you're looking at putting this cowl on and a quick shifter, then you might as well go for the sports pack. However, having said that, the one thing I'm not so keen on in that pack is the rad guard being polished. I think it would just look nicer if that was black. So if that was me, I would have this sports pack fitted, but I would paint that black, and I'd probably paint the rear set black as well. This bike tips the scales at 214 kilos, so it's not the lightest weight of things, but obviously we've got a big old lump of engine in there. Just the overall way that the bike carries its weight, it feels very light and nimble, very flickable. Changes of direction are, you know, instantaneous. Just that tiny little bit of feedback that goes into the bars or into the pegs, and you get rewarded with that straight away. It's a very neutral handling bike. It's got this steel twin spar chassis, and that's to give a little bit of compliance, and that also gives it a nice neutral, predictable handling characteristic. This is pushing buttons, and I may make a rather irresponsible financial decision having ridden this for a little while. I love the looks of it. When I saw it, I thought this is just such a fantastic looking bike. They've done a really good job of this, but do I really want a Fireblade derived inline 4? After my first ride, I was on the Honda website looking at prices and PCP deals and the like, because as an overall bike I think it's fantastic. If we talk about practicalities, well, you can see I'm buzzing along here, 27 miles an hour in third gear through town, happy as Larry. It's comfortable, it's quick, it's got, you know, long legs. If you're in sixth gear, you're cruising along at motorway speeds and above very easily indeed. If you were to sling a little tail bag on this, or a set of panniers maybe from the accessories, you could very easily tour on this. I would absolutely love to take this over to Europe for a few days and have a belt round France or Belgium or the Netherlands. So I want to be comprehensive in this review, but I want to keep it relatively brief as well. I don't want to chuck a load of numbers at you. I've kind of talked a little bit about the handling, it being very neutral and very predictable, but the suspension treatment I think has been done very well as well. Now I'm talking from a point of view of UK roads, which are by and large pretty terrible. We've got potholes, we've got ripples and ruts, and certainly once you get into the back roads like this, you're getting even more of that. And I think Honda have set this bike up perfectly for these kind of roads. I think they've hit the sweet spot. You haven't got a really harsh kind of race inspired suspension setup. It's compliant, it's lenient. Some might say it's a little bit soft. I am 95 kilos before I could put my gear on, so I tend to compress the suspension more than the rider that it was designed for. But I find it's very good. It's very controlled, it's soft, but it's not wallowy, it's not bumpy or bouncy. It soaks things up, and of course it is adjustable. So you've got Showa adjustable forks at the front, you can adjust the rebound and the damping, and you've got a Showa Pro Link rear monoshock, which is adjustable but only for preload. But out of the box, I've not felt any scenario where I'm like, this is a little bit lacking. Now maybe I'm not riding it like Freddie Spencer would do, but I've been certainly giving it some beans, and so far so good. The suspension is, I think, out of the box very well done. I'll give a cursory mention to the brake. We've got twin 310mm discs up front and a single 240mm at the back. Those discs are grabbed by Nissan 4-pot calipers, and they are very good indeed. The power's there, but you've got really nice feel and modulation on those as well. The clutch is just a standard cable operated clutch, but still nice and light. It is a slip assist clutch, which is really useful. So we have got user mode. If I flick the switch, we've got standard, sport, rain, user 1, user 2. You can do that on the fly, just shut the throttle. And to give the suspension, you know, a little bit more of a test, I've come down a road which I know to be quite washboardy, lumpy and bumpy and poor quality. It's dealing with these rough surfaces very well. I haven't got too fast a rebound, obviously, as I said, I can slow that down. But I just wanted to come down here because I know what this lane is like, just to get an idea of how it is. And it's perfect. So, styling is spot on. The engine's great, the handling, suspension, brakes are all good. Is there anything I don't like about it? Well, not really very much at all. Some people will say the clocks, I've already mentioned that. That doesn't bother me at all. Even if I had it naked, it's just, it comes with the territory. There's only so far that you can go. And this is, as I said, it's a homage to those bikes. It's a modern interpretation of the old CB900. It's not a replica, so I don't mind that whatsoever. One thing that did surprise me with this bike, given its retro leanings, is it's got keyless ignition. Now, if you've watched my videos, you know I'm not a particular fan of keyless ignition. Not that I'm a Luddite, I just think, well, if the bike starts, I know the key's in the ignition and I don't have anything to worry about. But of course I do understand why people like it. If you can put your key in your pocket, and if you're on and off the bike all day, you can just stay there and you do what you need to do. And from my point of view, could they have just saved money, made it a little bit more retro, and just have a little ignition switch? Because it's where the ignition would be, you've just got a little twisty knob. So it's not as even if they've sort of hidden it away. It feels like a move that they didn't need to make on this bike. Is it a problem? No. Would it stop me buying one? But hell no, it wouldn't. But it's just a niggle. But outside of that, I'm struggling to kind of find any real things that I don't like about this bike. And it's a truckload of bike for the money, I feel. Yes, of course, once you start putting extras on, then you can start to push prices up. But of course I think the bike in standard basic trim is really good, and if you want to add those bits as you go along, as and when you can afford them, you can take them on. And the good thing about Hondas now, including this bike, is they do come with a 6-year warranty, so you've got that peace of mind as well. So to go back to my initial question, they've got the looks bang on. How have they put the rest of the package together? And as you can tell, I think they've done a fantastic job. The important thing really is, how does this bike make you feel? And it makes me feel happy, and it makes me feel nostalgic. And I think if you can get just those two things out of a bike, then you're going to really enjoy riding it, and you're going to really enjoy owning it. So I hope you found the video useful. If you have got any questions or anything that I've missed out, or something you'd like to know about the bike, then drop those in the comment section down below. And all that leaves me to say is, until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.